offer you this lesson from Unity of the Keys Spiritual Center.
This is our second in a series of What is Unity. So last week we talked almost exclusively about our co-founders and the motley crew of people that met in their living room who called themselves the Society of Silent Help and who surrounded Myrtle Fillmore in their love and devotion and commitment to prayer as she practiced her principles of prayer and healed herself of incurable tuberculosis. It took her about 2 years, and she was completely healed and lived to a ripe age, 40 years past her terminal diagnosis. And the Unity movement grew out of this search and practical application of truth principles demonstrated at the turn of the last century, when things were working so fabulously for them, and this word unity actually came to Charles Fillmore in a meditation, which was a rare occurrence for him. They decided to invite the world. They wrote this in Unity magazine. The wonderful success of absent healing demonstrates that bodily presence is not necessary to those in spiritual harmony. We invite everyone to join this society of silent unity. The only requirement is to sit in a quiet place and pray for at least 15 minutes every night. They suggested 10 o'clock, but they later said there's no time in God, so if it's 10 o'clock in California and 10 o'clock in Florida, it's okay. We're all one. And they asked that people would hold in their consciousness the words that they were given each month. And out of that grew our daily word. So unity is a collection of techniques in God realization. It consists of thoughts to think, words to speak, healing treatments, creative visualizations, and positive, uplifting daily practices done individually and in groups. And the Fillmores were not trying to start another denomination of Christianity. They believed these were universal spiritual practices that they had gleaned from their deep study of the world's religions. James Dillett Freeman. Our title really comes from Jim. Our title is Poets, Rebels, and Mystics, the Early Years. Jim Freeman was a poet, a rebel, and a mystic. And he came to work at Unity as a young poet during his college vacation. But I learned last night that he came to Unity way before that. Jim used to say that he had a difficult childhood. Sometimes his father would use him when he was drunk as a punching bag. When he was 10, his parents split and they moved to Kansas City, and his stepfather was interested in vegetarian diet. And that's how he ended up in Sunday school at Unity, because Unity had the first vegetarian inn in the Kansas City area. And so his stepfather would take him to Unity. But it was Myrtle Fillmore who suggested to May Rowland that she hire Jim as a young poet to be part of Silent Unity during his summer vacation. And later, May Rowland told him that the thought that came to her at the time was, the last thing we need right now in Silent Unity is a young poet. And for that matter, any poet at all. But Jim Freeman surprised her. He ended up being an important part of Unity his entire life. He wrote the prayer of protection that we say at the end of our service. He wrote a prayer that has been taken to the moon and left on the moon called I Am There. And by the way, the prayer of protection walked on the moon. I'll tell you that story because it's quite phenomenal that any person could have two of their pieces of writing taken by two people they don't even know to the moon. We used to jokingly call Jim the poet of the stars. So, the prayer of protection was taken in 1969 by Colonel Edwin Buzz Aldrin. And it was with him on Apollo 11 when he made his historic moonwalk. That's how much it meant to him. And I want to gift everyone with the prayer of protection and the prayer of faith. You can pick these up in the bookstore today. It's good to carry one with you, even if you're not walking on the moon. Buzz Aldrin never met Jim Freeman. And I think that's a testimonial to how far-reaching Jim's work was in the world. It reached millions of people. The poem, I Am There, was left on the moon by Colonel James Irwin on Apollo 15 in 1971. Astronaut Irwin celebrated with his Baptist church by making huge posters all over the church with the words to I Am There. And when I speak these words to you, you'll realize it's a lot of words. It's a big poem. And so they took pictures of it and put it on microfilm in a sealed capsule and left it on the moon for future space travelers. Jim says of all the things that he has written, he believes that I Am There has meant the most to many people, and it certainly meant the most to him. Jim came to Unity to work the second time after returning to college and graduating from college. The second time, Charles Fillmore suggested that he could get a job in Unity, which Jim was really not that interested in doing, not seeing himself as a very religious person. But this cute blonde by the name of Catherine asked him to go to a gathering at Unity Farm and said she would drive. And a year later, she became his wife, the love of his life, and his co-worker in Silent Unity. Jim was a young man in love with his beautiful wife, Catherine, when she was diagnosed with cancer. He was totally unprepared for this. They were both so young. He did not think he could live without her. She was his first love, his best friend. He told me the kind of woman who'd put out his clothes for him in the morning, make his favorite foods. She just was such a giving and uplifting and beautiful soul. In his devastation, on a Saturday morning, he went to the Silent Unity healing room with tears running down his face. And Jim said that he always was looking and searching for that still small voice within him. But in that chapel that day, he heard an audible voice, and it wasn't his own. So he would say, this poem, this prayer came through me, not from me. At the time, he simply took an envelope out of his pocket and wrote down what God said to him so he could share it with his wife. The voice said, Jim, do you need me? Do you need me? I am there. You cannot see me, yet I'm the light you see by. You cannot hear me, yet I speak through your voice. You cannot feel me, yet I'm the power at work in your hands. I am at work though you do not understand my ways. I am at work though you do not recognize my works. I am not strange visions. I'm not mysteries. Only in absolute stillness beyond self can you know me. But then is a feeling and a faith. Yet I am there. Yet I hear. Yet I answer. When you need me, I am there. Even if you deny me, I am there. Even when you feel most alone, I am there. Even in your fears, I am there. Even in your pain, I am there. I'm there when you pray, and I'm there when you don't pray. I'm in you, and you're in me. Only in your mind can you feel separate from me, for only in your mind are the mists of yours and mine. Yet only in your mind can you know me. Empty your heart of empty fears. When you get yourself out of the way, I am there. You can of yourself do nothing, but I can do all. Though you may not see the good, good is there, for I am there. And I am there because I have to be, because I am. I am love. I am assurance. I am peace. I am oneness. I am the law on which the movement of the stars and the growth of living cells are founded. Only out of me does the world have meaning. Only out of me does the world take form. Only because of me does the world go forward. I am the love that you can cling to. I am your peace. I am one with you. I am. Though you fail to find me, I do not fail you. Though your faith in me is unsure, my faith in you never wavers, because I know you. Because I love you. Beloved, I am there. Can you imagine hearing that voice say that to you? Jim survived the loss of his wife, Catherine. And I believe one of the most profound stories that he ever wrote is the story of the gifts he received after Catherine died from Catherine. The way she ministered to him even 3 months after her death. And so we're gifting this to you today. It's called Forever a Blessing. It has that story in it. And it has Jim's prayer protection, I am there, the blessing for a marriage. It's the commemorative book of treasured selections from Jim Freeman's incredible writing. So the ushers, you can pass that out, I guess, on the way out, or you can pass it out now if you want, whatever you want. Jim eventually moved on. Go ahead, you can pass it out. Yeah. In her last letter to him that he received on Christmas morning, Catherine said it was her inner knowing and her blessing to him. You'll read it in there, that Jim Freeman would be forever a blessing. And she encouraged him never to stand in the way of joy and happiness, to fully receive all the joy that was waiting in his life. And so eventually, Jim met Billy and married again and had a long, happy marriage to another Unity co-worker named Billy. And even though Jim survived the loss of Catherine, and then later he survived the loss of Billy, he was never a sorrowful or a morose person. He told me that the first director of Silent Unity, May Rowland, taught him to smile. That before working in Silent Unity, he could be very irritable and moody. He had that poetic personality, he used to joke, that artistic personality, up and down, up and down. But in Unity, in Silent Unity, he would say, "The great ladies and gentlemen of Silent Unity taught me to have a happy countenance and taught me to smile and to embody what he believed to be God's joy." When I was in ministerial school, Billy was diagnosed first with dementia and then with Alzheimer's. And I watched Jim struggle with how best to care for Billy. One time he told me, a friend of mine said that if I don't put Billy in a nursing home, he's not going to speak to me again. I said, "What?" Knowing that Jim would never do that. He said, "Well, he told me that it would be such a waste of my talent." He said, like a few poems or a writing were more important than the love I have for my wife. He said, "I take my vow in sickness and in health until death do us part," quite seriously. "And if I can't do that," he said, "it's because I'm not who I say I am." So I don't ask much, but I ask my friends to please pray for me to have the love in me, the capacity to love my wife until her last breath and then beyond. And he did. Sometimes it would disturb him because it didn't seem that she recognized him. As many of us who have had family members with Alzheimer's will testify to, it's a shock at first. My mother used to know me, but not be able to, it seemed like, put a name to my face or my relationship with her. And so towards the end of her life, she'd say, "You found me." And I'd say, "Yes, Mom, I'm going to find you wherever you are for the rest of your life." And sometimes she would think I was her mother, and sometimes she would remember and have these incredible things to say to me. And I cherish those moments at the end of her life, as I know that Jim did. And yet, at the same time, I know that sometimes it's painful. And he grieved the loss of Billy and the relationship that he knew and the person that he knew for many years before she died. And then after she died, he received so many morose letters, he told me. So many cards, he would open them up and he would just feel so sad reading them. But he knew that it wasn't his own sadness, because for him, he had lived the love he was, and he knew life is eternal. And that Billy and Catherine and all those who've gone before us to the other side of life live on in us and in God's ever-evolving life. Billy's last words to Jim and to everyone, whether she could remember who they were or not, were, "I love you." Sometimes he said that he would sit with her for hours and she would just seem so happy watching the birds in their backyard, holding hands like they were teenage sweethearts, saying, "I love you, I love you, I love you." Jim taught me that everyone needs love and support. He called silent unity a lot. He asked for prayer support when he needed it, and he gave prayer support right on the spot. If you had something going on, he'd say, "Let's pray." And he had some amazing words to affirm personally all of his life. He learned that from May Rowland. May Rowland was the director of Silent Unity her whole adult life. Straight out of high school, she was chosen to be the director. She was born in 1894 and she died in 1977. And she was chosen by the Fillmores to be the spiritual leader of Silent Unity. And anyone that knew her could see that she had spiritual power. You could feel it. You could sense it. And here's a simple thing she taught everyone in Silent Unity to do. She asked them to do something that she practiced. She would do rounds at Silent Unity, and she would personally affirm people. She asked everyone to do this, to find the good in their coworkers, to speak out loud what they were grateful for, what qualities they saw in them that they admired, what it was about them that was uniquely beautiful. And she said this created the foundation for an organization of upliftment. Another simple thing that she would do as the director of Silent Unity, you can only imagine, people came to her with all kinds of ideas about many different things. And this was her approach. "Let's do it." She said, "I don't really think there's any reason for contention or disagreement in unity. If there's an idea, let's try it." She said, "I would support people in whatever it was that came to them, whatever they were guided to do." When she began in Silent Unity, there were 100,000 letters to be written each year. When she left, there were close to 1 million prayer letters being written every year. During the holidays, the numbers would go up, sometimes double or triple the amount of work that the Silent Unity workers had to do, and this is what she would say: "There's a greater demand on our work this week, so make sure that you take more time to pray." She had this awareness that the energy would come if you took more time off to pray. It would be easier to write those letters. We're more efficient when we're attuned to God. Life is easier, simpler, when we're in the flow of God intelligence. I like to see May Rowland walking around, affirming with her joyful smile the good all around her. And as I was thinking and praying about her this week, I realized that these ideas of personal affirmations and smiling and having the insight to encourage people to see the good qualities and to speak the good qualities in others, that she really lived this scripture from the 4th chapter of Paul's letters to the people of Philippi. You might be familiar with it. We sing it in Sunday school a lot. Rejoice in the Lord always, and again I say rejoice. That's the first line. Let your gentleness be known to everyone. The Lord is here. Don't worry about anything. The Bob Marley principle. But in everything by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your requests be known to God. And the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your hearts and minds in Christ Jesus. Beloved, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is just, whatever is pure, whatever is pleasing, whatever is commendable, if there's any excellence in it, if there's anything worthy of praise, think about these things. And May Rowland would say, and speak about them. And keep on doing what you've learned and received and heard. And the God of peace will live in you. May Rowland had spiritual power. And one story I love about her, because of being in Kansas City, there were a lot of tornadoes. And at the time, the Silent Unity building was the tallest building in that area. And once, many years ago, there was a large tornado. You could see it in the sky, this black funnel. It was coming towards the Silent Unity building, and people were really afraid. They were gathered together in a closet praying. And May Rowland went outside, and she stood with her hands up, and she said, "Divine order is now occurring in the weather." And that tornado changed direction. May Rowland had the kind of faith that could move tornadoes. These are her words. People ask me all the time, what is unity? And I answer, unity and silent unity is simply a group of people who are learning the truth, teaching the truth, and practicing the truth. She said it was my job to be a stand for unity teachings. So I stood for the truth I knew. I affirmed the truth, and I waited for the results. These are her words. Truth is truth. Because I was the director of Silent Unity, did not make me special or different. If someone came in need of a good word, if someone was depressed, if someone was having a difficult time or was simply unhappy, whoever was available at the time would be sent to meet that person. That was our idea of counseling and unity. Anyone could do it because we were all attuned to God. There was no kind of separation according to title or according to ordination. In fact, neither James Dillard Freeman nor May Rowland were ordained ministers until the trustees at Unity Village made them. Jim told me they just did a little ceremony over their heads and called them reverends. But Jim said he wasn't really a minister. He will always be just a poet who loves God. Neither Jim nor May Rowland had any need to elevate their personality. They stood for the principles, and they led by example. And if we are to carry on this work, That has to be our focus too. Whether you're a poet, a rebel, a mystic, or like Charles Fillmore, I explained last week, a bit of a cynic, but someone who was open enough to try what seemed to be working and to go all in when it seemed to work. Or maybe you're like Myrtle Fillmore, and they used to say that she was probably from another planet. Regardless of your inclinations, each one of us has to practice and demonstrate the principles for ourselves and each other. So at Unity of the Keys, like those who've gone before us, the Fillmores, Jim Freeman, May Rowland, we're learning the truth. We're teaching the truth. We're practicing the truth. And we're holding to the truth for each other and ourselves. And if we can continue to do this, our life becomes simple and sublime. Thank you.